You have everything you're supposed to want. A job, a roof, people who care, maybe even success by most people's standards. From the outside, your life looks fine, maybe better than fine. But inside, something feels fundamentally wrong. You wake up with this heaviness you can't explain, this quiet ache that has no source. You scroll through your own life like a stranger looking at someone else's photos. And the worst part, you can't even justify feeling this way, because nothing's actually wrong, nothing you can point to anyway. And if you ignore this feeling long enough, it doesn't go away, it becomes your personality. So you tell yourself to be grateful, you list all the things you should feel lucky for. You compare yourself to people who have it worse, and yet the feeling remains. This persistent sense that you're broken in a way no one else can see. And here's the question that keeps you up at night. Why? Why does everything feel so empty when it should feel full? Why do you feel so disconnected when you're not alone? Why does your own life feel like it doesn't fit anymore? If that landed in your chest like a weight, stay. Because this isn't about depression, this isn't about trauma, this is about something deeper, something our generation doesn't have language for yet. And today, we're going to name it. Let's start with what this actually feels like. Because broken is too simple a word for what's happening inside you. It's not sadness. Sadness has a reason. This is more like numbness with an edge. You're functional. You show up. You do what you're supposed to do. But there's no color to any of it, no texture. It's like watching your life happen through glass. You're at dinner with friends, and you're laughing at the right moments, saying the right things, but some part of you is floating above the table, watching yourself perform. You're there, but you're not present. You're existing, but you're not alive. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you feel too much. Every small thing hits harder than it should. A song makes you want to cry. A kind gesture breaks something open in you. You're raw in a way that makes no sense. Because again, nothing bad has happened, you're just heavy. And then there's the guilt. The crushing guilt of feeling broken when you have no right to. People are struggling with real problems, real loss, real pain. And here you are with a decent life, feeling like you're drowning in shallow water. So you don't talk about it, you minimize it, you gaslight yourself. I'm just tired. I'm just being dramatic. I just need to get it together. But deep down you know it's more than that. You know something's fundamentally off. You just don't know what. Here's what nobody tells you. That feeling, it's not a flaw, it's a signal. Read that again. This isn't sadness, it's misalignment. Your psyche is trying to tell you something. Not that you're broken, but that the life you're living doesn't match the person you actually are. That somewhere along the way, you built a life that looks good on paper but feels hollow in practice. Because here's the truth. Most of us aren't living our lives. We're living the idea of a life we think we're supposed to have. You chose the safe career because it made sense. You stayed in the relationship because it's comfortable. You built routines that are practical but passionless. You optimized for stability and lost the plot entirely. And your soul is suffocating. Not because anything's wrong, but because nothing's right either. You're not in danger, you're just not in alignment. And misalignment doesn't announce itself with sirens. It whispers, it aches, it makes you feel broken when really you're just living the wrong life. This is the part where most people stop watching, because what comes next requires honesty. This is what philosopher Søren Kierkegaard called the sickness unto death. Not physical death, psychological death. The slow erosion of self that happens when you betray who you are in favor of who you think you should be. And the cruelest part, society rewards this betrayal. You get praised for being responsible, mature, realistic. Meanwhile, the parts of you that actually matter, your curiosity, your passion, your aliveness, they're starving in silence. So you cope. You distract, you consume, you scroll, binge, shop, drink, work, anything to avoid sitting with the uncomfortable truth that your life might be fine, but you're not. And this is where it gets dangerous. Because when you can't name the problem, you start thinking you are the problem, you internalize it. Something's wrong with me. I'm ungrateful. I'm broken. When really, you're just a person living in a cage you built to keep everyone else comfortable. You know this already. You just don't want to admit it. Let me tell you what's actually happening. You're experiencing existential dissonance. The gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be has grown so wide that your nervous system is in constant low-level alarm. Not fight or flight, just wrong. A persistent hum of "this isn't it" that never fully goes away. This is why you feel exhausted even when nothing happened today. And you can't think your way out of it, because this isn't a logical problem, it's a soul problem. Your mind can rationalize all day. I should be happy. I have everything I need. But your body knows the truth, and it's screaming at you in the only language it has. Emptiness, exhaustion, the quiet conviction that something essential is missing. Here's what most people do at this point. They try to fix the feeling without changing the life. They go to therapy and talk in circles. They try gratitude journals and affirmations. They medicate the symptom and ignore the cause. And it helps sometimes for a while until it doesn't. Because you can't mindset your way out of a life that doesn't fit. You can't positive think yourself into alignment. At some point, you have to face the terrifying question, what if the life I built isn't the life I'm meant to live? And that question will ruin you in the best way possible. Because once you ask it, really ask it, you can't go back to pretending. You can't keep performing. The mask starts to crack. And underneath it is the person you abandoned years ago in favor of being acceptable. Here's where most people get stuck. They recognize the misalignment. They feel the wrongness, but they don't do anything about it. Because change is terrifying. The known, even when it's suffocating, feels safer than the unknown. So they stay, they endure. They tell themselves it's not that bad. They wait for the feeling to pass. But it doesn't pass. It compounds. Year after year, the gap widens. The numbness deepens. Until one day they look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. You're doing this right now. Waiting. Hoping it gets easier. This is the real tragedy. Not that you feel broken, but that you'll spend your entire life feeling broken instead of doing the one thing that could actually heal you, living truthfully. But here's what living truthfully actually means. It doesn't mean blowing up your life. It doesn't mean quitting your job, leaving your partner, moving to Bali. It means starting to honor the small truths you've been ignoring. The truth that you hate your career, even though it pays well. The truth that you're not in love anymore, even though they're a good person. The truth that you've been performing a version of yourself for so long that you forgot who you actually are. Living truthfully means stopping the performance, slowly, carefully, one small act of integrity at a time. It means saying no when you mean no. It means admitting when something doesn't feel right, even if you can't explain why. It means choosing discomfort over dishonesty. And it's brutal, because the people around you, they're invested in the version of you that keeps them comfortable. They don't want you to change. They want you to stay predictable, stable, the person who doesn't rock the boat. But you're not here to make other people comfortable. You're here to live. Actually live, not survive, not perform. Live. So what does that look like practically? It starts with listening, really listening, to the quiet voice that's been trying to reach you through the numbness. The one that says this isn't it every time you compromise yourself. The one you've been drowning out with noise, with productivity, with anything to avoid hearing its truth. You have to get still enough to hear it, and that terrifies most people. Because stillness forces you to confront what you've been running from, the realization that you've been living on autopilot, that you've made choices out of fear, not desire, that the life you're living was designed to avoid pain, not to pursue meaning. But once you hear it, once you really listen, you can't unhear it. And that's when the real work begins. The work of unbecoming who you're not. The work of peeling back the layers of conditioning, expectation, and fear until you find the person underneath. And that person? They're not broken. They never were. They're just buried. Buried under years of should and supposed to. Buried under the weight of being who everyone else needed you to be. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here's the part that might save you. That feeling of being broken? It's actually proof that you're still alive, that some part of you is refusing to settle, refusing to accept a life that looks good but feels dead. Most people lose that feeling. They numb out completely, they stop questioning, they accept the cage and call it maturity. But you're still feeling it, which means you're still fighting, even if it doesn't feel like it. So what now? What do you do with this information? You start small. You don't have to burn your life down, but you do have to start telling the truth. To yourself first, then, slowly, to others. You admit that the job that looks great on LinkedIn is slowly killing your spirit. You acknowledge that the relationship that everyone envies feels more like a roommate situation than a romance. You recognize that the routine you've built for stability has become a prison. And then, piece by piece, you start making different choices. Not reckless ones, not impulsive ones, just honest ones. You take the hobby you've been dismissing as impractical and give it space. You have the hard conversation you've been avoiding. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop pretending you're fine when you're not. This won't make you popular. It might even make you lonely for a while, because the people who loved the performed version of you might not recognize this one. And that's okay, because you're not here to be recognized, you're here to be real. And real is uncomfortable, real is inconvenient. Real doesn't optimize for anyone's approval, but real is the only thing that will make you feel whole again. The hardest truth? No one is coming to save you from a life you keep choosing. Here's the final truth. You don't feel broken because something's wrong with you. You feel broken because you've been living as a fraction of yourself, and your psyche is rebelling, not to punish you, to wake you up. This feeling, this persistent wrongness, it's not a life sentence. It's an invitation to stop performing and start living, to stop optimizing for safety and start reaching for meaning, to stop being who you think you should be and start becoming who you actually are. And that transformation? It won't happen overnight. It's not a single decision, it's 1,000 small ones, 1,000 tiny acts of courage where you choose truth over comfort, where you choose yourself over approval, where you choose aliveness over safety. You might lose things in the process, relationships, stability, the image you work so hard to build, but you'll gain something infinitely more valuable. Yourself, the real one, the one that's been waiting patiently for you to remember they exist. If you've been waiting for permission to change your life, this is it. So if you're reading this and feeling seen, if something in you is nodding along, listen to it. Don't dismiss it, don't rationalize it away, don't wait for it to get worse before you take it seriously. Your life might look fine from the outside, but you know the truth, and the truth is fine isn't enough, not for you, not for anyone. You weren't put here to have a fine life. You were put here to have your life, the one that only you can live, the one that requires you to be brave enough to disappoint people, brave enough to make mistakes, brave enough to be misunderstood. That life is waiting for you. It's been waiting this whole time. On the other side of the fear, on the other side of the performance, on the other side of fine, and the feeling you're carrying right now, that persistent sense of being broken. It's not a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that something's right, that you're finally ready to stop pretending and start living. You're not broken. You're breaking free. And if this resonated, if you felt every word of it, you're not alone in this. This is your signal to stop living the life you think you should have and start building the one you actually want. Not someday, now.